Well, hello everybody. I'm going to give you another update where we are with this Heathkit TA-17. Quite the learning experience. So where I am today is the guitar part was working fine, the microphone phono part was working fine, and the bass section had a fluctuating voltage of 25 volts. And if you recall in the schematic, as we went over last time, same issue, right? Here's the bass preamp section, and I was getting really weird voltages here coming out of Q6 and these associated capacitors. And I isolated this by pulling out this resistor, and the problem was still occurring. I was still getting fluctuating voltages. So I looked for solder bridges on the board, couldn't find anything unusual. Really started to get a little bit frustrated, quite honestly. Wanted to put it aside and not work on it for a while. Started checking some voltages here on these output drivers, and the drivers here was getting really weird voltages here, which I wasn't getting prior. So something wasn't right. So what I ended up doing is detaching the leads for the transformer, which I broke the rule. I should have done that first. So I started here with the 69 volt leg, and obviously it's a center tap. And I ohmed it, everything worked fine. I tested it under load, it worked fine. Did the same thing here. Okay, this is the 80 volt rail. Same issue, no problems, everything was checking out fine. So I decided to kind of take a different approach on things, and I'm going to show it to you so you learn from it more than anything. You'll learn not to make the same mistake that I did. So, here's what I did. See that? I removed all the components from the circuit card. You'll see it's completely empty, and there's the back side, and this is what I want to show you. So let me show you in real person here instead of on the computer screen. So here's the circuit card, and you'll see it looks pretty good here. It's pretty clean. It's got some really nice printing on it, which is good. It hasn't faded. Here's the 100 ohm resistor that was blown when I originally got it, so you'll see that the board is marred from that, obviously. And then what you'll see here is a 47 ohm resistor that kept blowing, and this is associated with the driver that I kept seeing weird voltages on. So so the board has got a little bit of damage there, but it's doable. It works. The holes are there. But what I found on the other side is a little more troubling. So after taking some of the components out and inspecting it, when I was looking for solder bridges, I noticed that a lot of the traces are just damaged. Now, some of this is probably caused by me, although I wasn't using a very hot iron. I was using a Hakko iron, and I had it set to about 350, 400 degrees, so I know I didn't smoke this thing. But you'll see that this card is just in really bad shape. Really bad shape. Here's one missing altogether. There's a whole bunch of them around here. Up in this area, there's some damage right there. And over here, this one is missing entirely. So what do you do in this stuff? There's one missing. So here's the plan of attack I'm going to take, and I'm going to try to show you this when I start it, so you can at least see the steps. So the first thing I noticed on this card is it's just loaded with flux, right? And not from the solder that I've used, because the solder I use doesn't have flux. However, the board is filthy. It just needs to be cleaned. They do sell flux cleaner, which you can put in an ultrasonic machine, which I'm going to do with this, and you put in some distilled water, and it will remove the flux to the best of its ability and clean it up. And I've got to do something with these traces. These traces are not good. I mean, here's another one that's just in bad shape. So I'm going to try my hand at replacing some of the traces that are bad. They sell foil tape that you can put down with crazy glue, I assume, and replace the traces that are bad. And of course, you got to take your time on that and do it slow and make sure that your continuity is good across all the components. So that's what I'm going to be doing on this thing for a while. I'm going to be fixing this board, getting it back to where it needs to be. But first I got to get rid of all this crud here. I mean, look at this, is all flux and burnt. And I noticed a lot of that when I was originally working on this. So apparently someone was working on this before I was, and was using a really hot iron. And by me messing around with it, it just made it brittle. So it's a combination of mistakes that I've made and someone else. But we're not going to give up. We're going to keep trying, And now that I've got all the components removed, it's actually going to be really easy for me to find the problem and fix the problem. Of course, what I'm going to do, actually, let me show you how I'm going to work on this. That'll be really helpful. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things, but this is a circuit card holder. So what you do is you take your circuit card and you insert it in here. It's spring-loaded. I'm only doing this with one hand here. Hold on one second. Let me put this down and see if I can make this work. Okay, so I've got the card in this holder, and what the plan of attack is going to be is I'm going to insert all of the resistors first on the other side, right, on this side. So after I get all the traces fixed, I'm going to put resistors in first, and I'm going to put tape on the component side, and then I'm going to flip it over to this side, and I'm going to be able to solder everything correctly. Now, in the chassis that I'm working on, I have to do everything vertically, which is really hard because the solder runs down. It's really hard to get at. It's hard to see. The box is really heavy. So having it removed is going to help me really make some clean solder joints here. So I'm going to do all the resistors first, and I'm also going to do the diodes and all of the flat components. I'll get all those in. I'll make sure everything is nice and neat. Connectivity is good. The traces are good. And after I do that, then I'll start working on the transistors and some of the capacitors. Those will be last. And then I'm going to obviously look at the manual that I have and make sure all the wires that I've taken out go into the right places. So essentially I'm going to be building this kit from scratch, which is, I guess, a good way to learn. So so that's where I am. So my next step is to clean this thing in the ultrasonic cleaner, fix the traces, get everything where it needs to be, make sure it's sound, and then start to populate the components again. Which, by the way, I'm not going to reuse all of these, but these are all the components that I took off the board. There's a lot of them in there, but could be worse. I'm going to be testing all the transistors with my transistor checker. I'm going to check all the caps. Resistors I'm just going to replace outright, and see what's good, what's not, what's within tolerance, what's not, and we're going to take it from there. So that's where I am, still learning. All right. I'll get back to you when I start to clean this thing up and let you know how that's working out. All right? Thanks for watching. This is Ron.